Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. Curry, one-on-one. Irving puts it up. It's good. Kyrie Irving from downtown. The three, steps back, crossover, puts up a three. Rebound James. Seconds. It's over. It's over. Cleveland is a city of champions once again. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.
Cleveland, this is for you.
What's going on, Cavs fans? Welcome back to another exciting edition of the Block the Shot the Stop. I'm Skylar Webker. He's Kevin Lynch, and we're coming at you for the last episode of 2025 after the Cavs took a win, and a actually very good-looking win against the San Antonio Spurs, who obviously everybody knows they have Wemby. They're all playing like a unit. They are one of the most feared teams in the league, I would say. Kevin, how did you feel after that Spurs game?
Shocked. If I'm being honest, I was not expecting a performance like that. The Spurs were playing as well as any team in the league, and the Cavs were frankly playing like a 500 or worse team. And so I was very pessimistic going into the game, and I was incredibly impressed with the Cavaliers' performance because I don't even think the Spurs particularly played bad, or I should say neither team played fantastic, especially offensively, but the Cavs out executed, out hustled, did the Spurs in a lot of areas that the Cavs usually lose. So yeah, man, I feel great after that win.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, that was a very convincing win in my mind. And one of the players I want to start with is Jared Allen, who you felt his impact in this game, especially matching up against Wemby for a good portion of it. It seemed like him and Evan Mobley were really the ones matched up with. They were on Wemby control all night. And I think you get the most out of Jared Allen in games like this where he goes and has a double-double. I think you need a double-double from Jared Allen every night to have these kind of wins. We talked about it last year, how he was a double-double machine. I think hopefully they're starting to get back into getting him in the rhythm of that offense to give him the chance to have double-doubles.
For sure. Jarrett was phenomenal. I will say he, I think the biggest thing is he was a focal point for the offense, and even more than Jarrett, the team was intentional about getting Jarrett the ball. I thought he was as active as he's been all season, and it's amazing with a big guy like Jared how much better their whole game looks when they're actually getting the ball a little bit and a part of the offense.
No doubt. And it's not just the double-double or anything like that, but still, like, you just felt his presence, like whether it's altering shots on the inside, whether it's getting Wemby to give up the ball whenever he's trying to drive in. You just felt Jared Allen's presence kind of end to end in this game, which is not something we've seen this year. And I would say portions of last year. I know you're pulling up a clip right now, but just what he provides this team has been, this is what we needed from Jared Allen kind of all year.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Skylar.
I'm saying this is what we needed from Jared Allen kind of all year, is this kind of, effort and just impact in the game. Not just like this counting statistics, like points and rebounds, but where you just felt Jared Allen's impact on this game from tip to whistle.
For sure. He sorry about that. Finally up here. Jared, he, like, a lot of people were saying like he went right at Wemby. He didn't. Like he wanted no part of Wemby, but he went right after Luke Cornett whenever it was Luke Cornett matched up against him. And Jared is very good at just kind of moving around the 10 foot, radius around the baskets, like in and out of the lane, on the blocks, and just kind of sliding the positions so that when someone does break down the defense, he can kind of slot into a place where there's a passing lane. I truly think a lot of Jared's lack of production this year has to do with the lack of penetration and rim pressure the team has been getting, lack of Darius Garland altogether, or a healthy Darius Garland. And, it was so phenomenal to see him play that well last night, mostly because I saw when and this comes from our friend Bob at Fear the Fro. I want to be very intentional about saying it came from Bob. Thank you for this, Bob. I'm sharing it. I listened to you this earlier today. When Jared Allen shoots 10 or more field goals, the Cavs are 6-0 this year. 6-0. They're 18-16, but they are 6-0 when they just get Jared Allen double-digit field goals.
That's incredible. That's an incredible stat, and everybody should go listen to Fear the Fro. That Bob is incredible over there. And to your point, like, he wasn't taking it to Wemby, but he also wasn't backing down to Wemby. Whenever Wemby was trying to drive to the hole or do anything like that. So I love this performance from Jared Allen. And this is kind of what we needed from him. And I think a portion of the struggles in the early part of the season do come from a lack of a Darius Garland, because we mentioned it a couple weeks back that's how Kenny offset these guys, and that's how he did last year. It was always Mitchell and Mobley and Darius and Jared, and I think that those two just have the right rhythm, whether it's Darius Garland, like you said, penetrating in and dumping it off to Jared Allen in driving lane or something like that. And that's a lot of what this team needs to do to balance out this offense, because we talked about it ad nauseum how they are way too dependent on the 3-point shot. And I think they're starting to devolve from that.
You would hope so. I mean, they still took 42 threes last night, which is almost like a little short of their average, and it's a lot for the NBA. It's, I don't know. My guess is the average is somewhere in the mid to upper 30s, but you're right. It didn't seem as significant or one-sided. It was almost like they were so cold at shooting the three earlier in the game, and especially in the third quarter, that they stayed in the game because they didn't just rely on the three. Like they missed them, but they actually still like drove to the basket, got some easier shots to get out in the transition more than I feel like I've seen them do in a while. And so then all of a sudden in the start of the fourth quarter, threes start falling, in addition to all the other things that they've been doing, the winning basketball plays that they've been doing. And the game just flips. It goes from a back and forth game to, in the blink of an eye, the Cavs had a double-digit lead.
Yeah, and I will say this is the first time I can remember this year where the Cavs put two good quarters together in the third and fourth quarter. Outscoring the Spurs 27-23 and then 37-23. Really like putting together momentum and continuing from quarter to quarter. We've talked about how this team is always, every other quarter or maybe like one quarter in the game. This felt like they actually were able to carry momentum past a quarter.
Yeah. And I thought, for me, is the next thing I wanted to talk about here. I thought Craig Porter Jr. him and Jalen Tyson were the difference in the game. Like when the game was back and forth, they brought Craig Porter Jr. in to start the fourth quarter, and he just made winning play after winning play. He had 3 assists, I think 3 rebounds, a steal, a block, all in the first 2 minutes of the fourth quarter. Like he just came in and just took over the game. And it was the most impactful 2-point performance you've seen from a Cavalier this year. I'm confident in that. And I think, I think Craig is such an incredible athlete that this team needs. They need somebody who is going to be a better athlete than the guy he like matches up against. And Craig, like you could see the way he goes for offensive rebounds. He gets tip outs, all these things. He is not only athletic, but he is such a smart basketball player and just makes winning play after winning play. And I think he was the difference in the game last night. You see Jalen Tyson hitting 3 threes. Craig Porter Jr. assisted on all 3 of those. He set up Jalen to not only make the shots, but then realize he was hot and continue to feed him the ball.
Yeah, I think I'm sold. When you said it earlier this year that Craig Porter Jr. should be taking all of Lonzo Ball's minutes, I was like, well, I don't know about that. That's what he did tonight. Or last night, I should say. he took all of Lonzo Ball's minutes. Lonzo had 0 minutes played, and like you said, it contributed to winning in such a big way. Granted, only 2 points, but giving you 6 rebounds, 4 assists, a block, and he was the third highest player in plus minus for the Cavs with a plus 12, which Lonzo gives you maybe +1, +2 on a night. He's never a negative, but a plus 12 is what they need from a point guard coming off the bench.
Yeah. And like he was credited with 6 rebounds. I think he accounted for maybe 9 or 10 between tipping the ball out, between, getting a great box out so somebody else could easily get the rebound. This is another thing Bob was talking about on Fear the Fro that I completely agree with. That when you play someone like Craig Porter Jr. or a guy like Jalen Tyson, they're both fantastic rebounders for their position. They help out your big guys. Every time the Cavs get out rebounded, Jared Allen is the lightning rod. Everyone wants to kill Jared. They think, if he doesn't get a rebound, it's strictly his fault. Or if the Cavs team doesn't get one, it's strictly his fault. There's ways to make this Cavs team a better rebounding team, right? Because right now they're a subpar team. Lean more into 2 big lineups, especially when you get Larry Nance back, or play Naquan Tomlin a little bit more. He's another fantastic rebounder. And then play guys like Jalen Tyson and Craig Porter Jr. more, who are going to give you a lot more rebounding from their position than you do from the other guys on the roster. So I think it's fairly simple. Like, it's not, if one thing is not going well in this team, whether it's rebounding or the 3-point shooting, they say, a lot of us say like the Cavs are such a bad 3-point shooting, they need to cut Lonzo Ball. Lonzo Ball is a terrible shooter, but he's not responsible for the Cavs being a bad 3-point shooting team. That's a collective thing with all but a couple of guys on the roster right now. So, but there's ways, you could have lineups where you have like 4 capable 3-point shooters, maybe 5 capable 3-point shooters, have a couple guys who can break down the defense to get more open threes. There's ways to correct a lot of this stuff. And I think Kenny kind of finally stumbled onto one this evening.
Yeah, and I agree with you about more 2 big men lineups. Unfortunately, I don't know how much we're going to see of that this month with the game count for Naquan Tomlin. So we might see a lot of Thomas Bryant, which that's fine.
That's fine. I mean, like, I'm not Thomas Bryant's biggest fan by any means, but you can't not say the guy has been productive and solid in his role. If he is a third big coming off your bench for 10, 12 minutes a game, I think that's fine. And I think he has done really well in that role. It's when you need him to do any more than that you're kind of playing with fire.
Yeah, for sure. And it leads me to, I know we're getting closer and closer to kind of the trade deadlines, and there's always rumors and things going out there, but we haven't really had any update on Max Strus. We're at the 4 months of the 3 to 4 month window. Yeah. So with no update on him and being at the 4 months, that looks like it's easily going to go longer. There really hasn't been an update for Larry Nance. I'm curious on what this team is going to do at the deadline. Those guys are tradable pieces and contracts, but more than that, obviously, you could probably find somebody to take on the Lonzo money, and you'd probably have to sweeten a pick or something with that. But I'm curious what this team is about to be if they are able to turn in the right direction like they showed against the Spurs.
You would hope so, man. I mean, I thought this performance was certainly not the ceiling of the Cavs, because no game where Donovan Mitchell only scores 10 points is their ceiling. But I thought it was as close to their ceiling as they've gotten this year. I think it was like an 8.5-ish out of 10 that like of what this team could be with. And it was really just the activity and the energy level was so high. It's something I don't know if we've seen this year at all, or at least not as consistent for a whole game. The effort was fantastic. I mean, they were going up against a team that was significantly more athletic than them. And you dust off Craig Porter Jr. off the bench, and he blocks Dylan Harper, who is one of the most athletic guys who has ever entered the NBA, and he flat out rejects him. It was phenomenal. And I do think we've talked about this before. Good habits and bad habits can be contagious. I think this team was kind of having some of both, and then all of a sudden the bad habits got contagious throughout the roster. maybe they can turn it around, and maybe it's as simple as, changing the rotation a little bit and putting some focus on, guys who do other things well to create good habits throughout the team. Because like I said, this was as complete a performance, especially defensively, that we've seen this year.
I agree. And we've talked about how the defense needed to kind of step up. They've lost a lot of games where the offense is shined and the defense hasn't. I think we're starting to build some good momentum. The Knicks game, even though it was a loss, was good momentum. This is a good momentum. I think this Cavs team is starting to right the ship a little bit. And I do think, I know we're not going to blame the whole season on health, but I do think especially Darius Garland getting healthier has really accelerated I don't say the vibes, but the good qualities of this team, because we're seeing a lot more drives to the basket. We're seeing a lot more cutting. We're seeing a lot more things that, quite frankly, were very stagnant when he was not in the lineup and not healthy and in the lineup.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Yeah, it's amazing how much better this team looks when they're close to healthy and they're kind of playing hard. That was the most I've seen the team talk. I mean, you could see them actively communicating throughout the game. And maybe that's because Peacock's broadcast is like 10 times the quality of ESPN or FanDuel. I don't know why that is. I mean, shout out Peacock. You're doing something right with your 4K cameras, or ESPN's doing something wrong. I mean, wouldn't be the first time. But like that was the most I've seen the team like in sync, it seemed like all season. And again, they play like that. They just start from that kind of, connectiveness and that kind of effort levels. Eventually the talent is going to take over with this team. And before you know it, they're going to rattle off 8 out of 10 wins and be up in the top 4 in the East.
Hey, you have my vote of confidence in that. But you put out on our social medias today calling for some fan questions, and we could probably dive into those, because I know a lot of those questions have assimilated with a lot of these topics that we're talking through. Yeah. So I don't know if you have them pulled up, or I can pull up some of them.
I got one pulled up. If you want to do the ones on Blue Sky, I can do. I got a couple of questions from the Discord chat with the guys from the land, and they're kind of like piling on each other, but our guy Big Rig, love Big Rig over there, just said something he wanted to point out was how married Kenny was to rotations up until last night. He always brings the same guys off the bench at the same exact times. Allen would inexplicably get frozen out of fourth quarters despite playing well, and underperforming players would play just because it was their turn in the rotation, basically. And we saw this last year, and last year was working, right? Kenny definitely likes consistency and creatures of habit and likes to do that, but you have to maintain some level of flexibility. So to your point, Big Rig, I think you're completely right. I think your observation is correct in that Kenny does like to stay with set rotations. Like, I could tell you when Donovan Mitchell is going to check out and check back in every single game. I can do the same thing with Evan Mobley. I could do the same thing with Darius Garland. But last night he did adjust from that. Not only did he switch up his rotations, something like playing Craig Porter Jr. over Lonzo Ball, he switched up Evan Mobley to Evan. You don't have a rotation night when Wemby when Webby comes out of the game, you're going to come out of the game. When he goes back in, you're going back in. He actually said that in the press conference. He's like, we mirrored Evan's minutes to Wemby's because we need him on the floor when Wemby's on the floor. And I was kind of shocked that he did that. And I was kind of noticing it during the game. I'm like, is this intentional? But I do think that's a step for Kenny, is to kind of be willing to be that flexible and kind of make rotation decisions on the fly in the game versus drawing it all up on a chalkboard before the game and then just going, despite no matter what's going on in the game, just staying with what your plan was.
Yeah, I mean, we said that in, I think it was the Knicks game, where it felt like Kenny got kind of out-coached there. And this was kind of a coaching win for Kenny to see a tactic and stick with it versus either shifting off or deviating from what the game called. I love the tactic of pairing Evan Mobley to Wemby's minutes. And look, this was a great team win, great effort win, but knowing who to shift in and out, we talked about how they prioritized Craig Porter Jr. over Lonzo Ball, and I'm sure that wasn't an easy coaching decision, but it turned out to be the right coaching decision.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I got one more question from the Lance Discord with Stark Eclipse, kind of piggybacking on Big Rigs, but he wanted to talk a little bit about Lonzo Ball as a hot topic all year, but after last night, especially his first DMP, and he asked what he thought Kobe Altman and Kenny's plan would be with Lonzo going forward. He should be traded if possible. If not, could we just cut him and sign Chris Paul? Even if he doesn't play, he's a worthy voice in the locker room. So a couple of things there. For Chris Paul, the Cavs should not sign Chris Paul. No. Chris Paul he's washed as a player. And there's one rule in sports. You don't want to have a superstar when he's no longer a superstar, because it basically, they have a hard time dealing with the fact that they're no longer a superstar and can cause problems. Who knows what happened with the Clippers? I just don't think it's a great idea to bring in Chris Paul. Second part of your question about Lonzo, they should absolutely not cut Lonzo, and I'll tell you why. Lonzo's contract is a super valuable trade chip for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Around the trade deadline, you're usually trying to do one of three things. You're either trying to improve your team for the playoffs, or you're trying to dump salaries and get like draft picks or something like that, or you're trying to take on expiring money from other teams to put yourself in a better cap situation for next year. Lonzo allows people to do that. There's so many players out there that have a contract, $5 to $10 million, but are signed for 2 to 3 years that a team might want to get off of. And they would happily trade them, not even for Lonzo Ball, the player, Lonzo Ball's contract, to be frank, because they have him on the team for 2 months. He may or may not even play. He expires and they open up that salary slot for free agency, the draft, whatever they're going to do with it. So Lonzo's contract is much more valuable than his play has been this year. So you definitely don't want to cut him. But I think the Cavs, if things don't improve in the next 3-4 weeks, will absolutely try and use his contract to improve the team in one way or another.
I don't even know if they're going to. I don't see Lonzo sticking on this team for the reasons that you mentioned.
What a 180 this guy.
No, he was my pick for 6th man of the year. I know it was a horrible pick, but I don't think they're sticking with him just from what they've seen. And I think for the reasons that you said, is because he has an option. He essentially is a $10 million to make some sort of salary match and then get it off of your books. So I definitely think that's probably why one reason why the Cavs made the move, because Isaac Okoro costs the same amount of money, but is locked in for 3 more years, versus if this thing with Lonzo doesn't work out, you can dump the contract off, whatever it needs to be. So I don't think Lonzo Ball stays on here. And look, I don't know who you get in that's going to beat out Craig Porter Jr. from what we've seen from him this year.
And maybe you don't. Maybe you feel good enough at the point guard position that you go try and get a different third big or another wing defender or something. Who knows? But to answer your question, I definitely don't think they should sign Chris Paul, and I definitely don't think they should cut Lonzo, but I do think they should explore how they can use Lonzo's contract to improve the team, assuming his play doesn't improve, which we all hope will. But I hope. I don't root against Lonzo Ball or any Cavalier. I just know what I've seen for the last 2 months, and it's not super promising. I got one more, then you can read the rest, Skylar. One more from Blue Sky, our friend Snot Boogie over there. It's time to trade Jared Allen. I love him, but he gets bullied too much. I disagree. And I think a couple things about Jared, and obviously he had one of his best games of the year last night. So you're feeling better about him now than maybe you did before. I don't think you can trade Jared and improve the center position at the trade deadline. Jared is signed for 3 more seasons. He's owed a lot of money. It's a hard contract to work out mid-season while also improving your team while you're over the second apron. I think Jared Allen is a very good player that the Cavs don't always utilize, right? He doesn't always play his best for sure, but I think there's still a lot of meat on the Jared Allen bone that the Cavs can use to be a better team. And frankly, the Cavs have always been a better team when Jared Allen is playing and playing well, and they're playing through him a reasonable amount of the time. So I would actually go the other way. Not only would I trade him, I would lean into him even more, kind of like they did last night.
Couldn't agree more in the sense of I don't know what center you're going to get that would be better than Jared Allen. And look, I think Jared Allen is better on this team when they do a lot of things that they did last night, cutting to the basket, dumping it off into the passing lane. Like that is where Jared Allen's game helps a lot. And when you give him double-digit field goal attempts, that is what you need to do to have Jared Allen be effective in this offense. I do understand he gets bullied a little bit because he is, I would say, undersized as a center, and size as in like girth and weight, not length. But I mean, I think I could live with that for the athleticism and running the floor with these other guys that he gives you. I think I could live with being a little undersized.
Yeah, and I mean, he's made it work to be like a very good center in this league, a one-time All-Star and kind of a fringe All-Star, top 10-ish center in the league. And I'm not going to cut a guy who it's different than Lonzo. Lonzo's barely played basketball for 3 years. We've only seen him on this team for 2 months. Jared Allen's been on the team since 2021. He has been an incredibly high level effective player who at times hasn't been successful. Like but I'm not going to give up on that guy. I'm not going to give up on that guy unless I'm getting something really good in return that I truly think is better in return. And I don't think that's possible at this trade deadline. If it's possible, I think it would have to be more a summertime trade.
Yeah, I think a summertime trade could be looming, especially if this season continues to not be as fruitful as they hope. But I don't think they're doing anything with them at the deadline.
Yeah. We one more real quick, and then I'll kick to you for the other questions. Why do the Cavs, specifically Donovan Mitchell, shoot threes with seconds left on the shot clock after getting an offensive rebounds? This is from I guess it's Mr. J214 on Blue Sky. I will tell you because honestly, it's a really good strategy. It's kind of proven that one of the best times to shoot a three is when the defense is scrambling off of an offensive rebound and a kick out. And Donovan Mitchell currently leads the NBA in 3-pointers made. So I'm actually totally fine with that scenario. I understand looking for things, being frustrated about the way this team has shot threes this season. Donovan Mitchell is the exception to that. And for the most part, I'm good with 98% of the ones he takes. Once every blue moon, it's a heat check or it's maybe a, not smart shot, but otherwise, he leads the league in he leads the NBA in 3-point shooting. He's in the top 5 in scoring. You got to give him the green light.
I would agree. It's the tactic is to get a shot up while the defense is not composed. That's the thought process on it. And there are 3 guys on this team. Let it fly whenever you want. And to me, it's Darius Garland just because the shot is so smooth. I know it's still coming around from the injury. So it's Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, and Sam Merrill. Those guys can let it fly. Green light all day long. Twice on Sunday.
I would argue throwing Jalen Tyson in there. He actually leads the team in 3-point percentage. He's different because he's not going to shoot any off the dribble. He's a more catch and shoot guy, but he's proven to be a very, very good 3-point shooter as well.
All right, yeah, I'll add Jalen Tyson in there. Going back to our blue sky here from Colin Reddick. He's got kind of a 2 question. We'll let it slide here, but one, they need to trade or even release Lonzo, which I think we've covered that one in depth. But the second part is that Proctor should be getting more minutes and ideally could be used as the defensive stop in the postseason. So I do agree that probably more minutes. I think that is he still on a 2-way?
No. He has a roster.
He's
spot.
fully converted.
Proctor
Okay.
does, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was thinking maybe that would be a reason why they weren't playing him as much. I agree. I think let him out there.
Yeah. I think it'll be a trickle down effect if they do, in fact, make a move with Lonzo or, God forbid, most likely somebody's going to get hurt and miss some games sooner than later. I think Tyrese Proctor has a lot of potential. I'm not sure if this is what Colin's referring to, but his defensive metrics are like crazy good. But I don't trust most, if any, individual defensive metrics because like all 5 guys, if one guy is guarding Kevin Durant and the other guy is guarding like Steven Adams out by the 3-point line, like that's not really it's not a comparable situation, right? So there are stats, and I agree. I think Tyrese Proctor has a really bright future as team. If the rotation shakes out the way that Craig would be my first priority, getting him up into that 15-20 minute a night range. And then if they can squeeze Tyrese for say most nights more like 10 minutes, but then increase if somebody else is missing the game or, for whatever reason. I agree with that. I would say I could see Tyrese being a very good defender in the future. I think a rookie as a stopper in the playoffs, that's a tall ask.
I also think his playing time might vary around what Max Strus looks like if he returns back to this team in time.
Yeah.
So I think that's another piece that falls in the Proctor puzzle.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
One right here in the YouTube comments. Hopefully Zoe figures it out, but how much runway can the Cavs really afford with them? I would say that runway got significantly shorter in last night's game.
Yeah. I think the runway is out right now. I mean, like they were a 500 team. If they had lost that game last night, they'd have legitimately been a 500 team. When you're struggling this bad and you're coming up on halfway through the season, they're 34 games into an 82 game season, and you're currently sitting in 8th in the much worse conference. The runway's gone to me. I think it's, Lonzo frankly sits or plays very little until an opportunity presents itself. You don't give him an opportunity, but you don't just give it to him. Either A, he earns it one way or another, or they, have to go to him for necessity with other people, have injuries or something like that. But I don't know. I think 33, 34 game, almost half the season is plenty of runway, especially if they were first in the East and could play around like they were this time this year. That's different. But given the team situation, yeah, I think the runway's over. Which is unfortunate. I mean, like I said, they'll probably offload him just, like I said, as a contract match for something. They're going to have to sweeten whatever deal with picks. Yeah, for sure. And the second part of the question, I'll just show. Kenny says a rest day. Being honest, I don't believe Kenny. I think Kenny is protecting a veteran player and doesn't want to say I flat out benched him because he likes Lonzo. He thinks a lot of Lonzo. Like, I don't necessarily think like it means Lonzo is never going to play again, but I think it was a strategic decision more than a load management decision. Yeah, I would agree. Last question that second to last question that we have, last one on Blue Sky. One of our biggest supporters over there at Blue Sky, the artist formerly known as Whoopty, Great name.
puts in there, was last night the real Cavs or a one-hit wonder? I would say it was
yeah,
closer to the real Cavs.
I knew you would say that. Like, I think it's closer to the Cavs we want to be. I mean, I saw the question too. My answer is no idea. Like, it looks a lot more like the Cavs from last year. And you know, I certainly hope so. Like I said earlier in the show, I think last night game was much closer to them fulfilling the potential of this team. But who's to say they don't revert back into some skids? So my best answer is hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, that's the reason that I think it's closer to who the real Cavs are, just because we have the entirety of last season as reference. So, but that runway is starting to get shorter just with how this season has gone. So,
Yeah,
hopefully this is the real Cavs.
I certainly hope so.
All right. So then our last question comes from Wes over at the land. And he puts, where's the Cavs frog? Like, where did it go? That was kind of something that just sprung up last year and has really not been here this year.
Yeah, he has to I think he phrased it as the Cavs frog a front runner. I actually looked into this for Wes today and found some things like, and it come to find out that last year we saw the Cavs frog basically at his height. Their winning streaks, thousands of fans, women screaming out his name in stadiums. And unfortunately, after that, he fell on pretty tough times. There's rumors of like drug and gambling addictions, but none of that was ever verified, but it would seem to explain his rapid fall from grace. There were pictures of him spotted homeless in downtown Cleveland, which is too often the case. He turned to a life of crime, decided he was going to break into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and steal the jacket Michael Jackson wore in the Thriller video and sell it to get back on his feet. Unfortunately, he was caught, and he's now serving 3 to 5 years in the Cuyahoga County Corrections Center. And I think he lives on the same cell block as Kellen Winslow Jr. So to answer your question, Wes, it was a pretty drastic and quick fall from grace for the Cavs frog, and he is 100% a front runner.
This is the most in-depth made-up story I've ever heard in my life.
But I do want to do Wes aside because he did follow up with one kind of really good question that we'll end this on. But he did ask, like, and I'll let you answer first, Skylar. Said it feels like there was always like a most important player in the Cavs debate, and it changed every year. He's like, who is it now? Is there one player who you would call most important? So like, would you say one player on the team is most important, or I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, Skylar?
I mean, most important, it could be construed as different than most valuable.
Yeah.
To me, it seems like I would say Darius Garland is the most important, not the most valuable. Obviously, Evan Mobley and Donovan Mitchell are more valuable, but most important seems to be Darius Garland for the men. What I said before, like we saw how absolutely flat and horrible this team was without him, how absolutely horrible and flat they were with him, unhealthy. Now we're starting to see him healthy, driving to the basket, facilitating, and we're just seeing everybody around him being better because he's better. And so for those are the reasons I think Darius Garland is probably the most important to this team.
Yeah, that was going to be my answer, like right now today, who is the most important? Because I agree with Wes. It changes. It's changed a lot from last year to this year. But I would say with the way the current team's constructed, especially with the loss of Ty Jerome, Darius does things that like nobody else on the team does nearly as well or nearly as consistently, as far as like setting other guys up, running the offense, getting the team out on the break, things like that. And you said it very well, like how much better the Cavs have looked in the handful of in the games where he appears to be healthy and moving well. I agree with you. I don't think Darius is the best player on the team. I think at best he's the third best player on the team. But from what the Cavs need and how, it's almost kind of like who's most irreplaceable right now. And I think so far this year, it's shown to be Darius Garland.
We agree. We agree on something. All right. So for that, we can go ahead and wrap it on out of here. Kevin, do you have any New Year's resolutions this year? What are your Cavs New Year's resolution or Dad's New Year's resolution?
Oh, sure. Cavs resolution. I said this on X when we were going back and forth with our buddy Luca, real Cavs fans. He asked something similar, like, what do you want from Cavs for Christmas? I think it was. And I was like, I want to have fun watching Cavs basketball. The last, up until last night, most of the last month and arguably most of the season has not been fun. There's been fun moments, but it hasn't been nearly as fun as it was last year or even parts of the year before that. So I want the team to play really hard and really smart, and I certainly want them to win. But I just want to feel good about the team, and good about watching them, and excited to watch the games. I was kind of dreading watching a few games recently. So that's my biggest thing for the Cavs. For me personally, honestly, I don't have anything specific other than 2025 was one of the better years I've had in my life, and I just want to keep the momentum rolling with my family, with my work, with our life. I want to, kind of building blocks one brick at a time. I want to lay a few more bricks in 2026 and with all of that. And, like I said, keep the good times rolling. What about you?
Yeah, I think as a Cavs fan, I think I want to make it up to some games this year. I haven't made it up to Cleveland for a Cavs game in quite a minute. And I think I want to try and go to some games, and hopefully they turn the team around so that's fun to go.
Yeah.
So I think that would be my Cavs fans piece. And for kind of personal, also had a pretty good 2025. Want to keep that momentum going, maybe travel a little bit more. That isn't just to Raleigh for work and back. So see a little bit more of our world. I think that would be a great thing to do.
Yeah, no, those are great things. I should have thrown. I'll throw travel on mine as well. We definitely did not travel as much with. We both had very long transition years this past year with relocating our families and our lives. And so let's both make a vow to take at least one awesome vacation with our families.
Yes, absolutely. So with that, we'll get on out of here. Please follow us on Blue Sky, X, Instagram, YouTube, all of the stuff, so that we can keep collecting questions and feature them on the show. We love interacting with fans. So please follow us on all this stuff. Subscribe to our YouTube channel as we continue to want to grow that over here on YouTube. Mm-hmm. And please subscribe to the audio version of this podcast. Give us all the likes, ratings, reviews. It helps us out a lot, and you directly impact the show. So anything you like, anything you don't, let us know. We're just Cavs fans trying to put on a good show for other Cavs fans. So for Kevin Lynch, I'm Skylar Webker. We're going to get out of here. And as always,
go Cavs. Play Craig Porter Jr.